Where do I report my withholdings on my tax return? I just can't seem to figure it out. That's a question I get a lot here on the channel, and today we're going to discuss this, and in a few minutes I'm going to show you where you can report all of your different type of withholdings that you might have on your tax return. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike the CPA. Welcome to Money and Life TV. I hope you're having a beautiful day out there. Here on this channel, we teach finances, investing, and taxes. Subscribe to the channel for our future weekly uploads around these various financial topics to help you build wealth. And of course, like the video if you want to support my work and to also help others see this content. Let's dive in. Withholdings are basically, the way to think about them is what you've paid in throughout the year with your taxes. So when you go to file your tax return, the tax return calculates what your potential tax liability is. Then you take into your account your withholdings on that. If your withholdings are more than your tax liability, well, then you're going to get a refund. If your withholdings are less than your projected tax liability, then you're going to have to owe the IRS or the government come April 15th, right? That's a general sense of how it works. Most of us, when we think of withholdings, we usually think of our paycheck. When we open up our pay stub every 2 weeks or every month, we look at that little line item that says federal income taxes withheld. And throughout the year, you see that. And eventually, at the beginning of each year, towards the end of January of each year, you receive your W-2 in the mail from your employer, and then it shows the total amount of federal income tax withholdings or state income tax withholdings on that form. You then take that form, and then you report that on your personal tax return. But did you know that withholdings can show up on various other tax statements as well? If you are an investor and you receive a 1099B, you can actually choose to withhold taxes on your interest, your dividends, and things like that on that statement. If you have unemployment compensation, a 1099G, you can actually have money withheld on that. A 1099R, for example, can also have federal withholdings. That is, 1099Rs are from distributions from annuities, 401ks, IRAs, etc. Even Social Security statements. You can voluntarily elect to have money withheld on your Social Security if you have a lot of other forms of income coming in to help offset the tax burden. Bottom line is withholdings can show up in various different tax forms, and then reporting them can seem somewhat complex, but it's actually a little bit easier than you might think. Let's look at some examples, and I'll just show you real quickly how you report it. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. I think the reason people have trouble finding where withholdings goes on their taxes is because it's the order of the tax return itself. It starts with your income, and it's not until the very, very end of your tax form do you actually report what you paid in. But the way you would find it is on page, if you just go to the 1040 tax form and you go down to page 2 of that form, right here on line 25, see where it says federal income tax withheld from? There you have it. So from your W-2, any federal withholdings from your W-2 are going to show up on line 25A, which would be reported here. Any other withholdings from your 1099's are going to show up here on line 25B. And that's where you would input that information. And there's even other forms, which I'm not going to go into detail on that, but there are some forms where you would want to show the withholdings on line 25C. Bottom line is, in total, you want all of your withholdings to show up in the proper spot so that you get credit for everything you've paid in throughout the year. Oh, and before I forget to mention it, because I'm going to forget, is if you live in a state where you have to pay state income taxes, and so you have state income taxes withheld, the state income taxes withheld are going to be reported on that state's tax forms. It will not, let me repeat, it will not be shown on the federal tax form. So like in California, where I live, because I have state income taxes withheld, I have to separately report those withholdings for states on the California tax forms. So I'm looking at two different tax returns, the California tax return and the federal tax return, and looking at those withholdings to make sure they're correct. So keep that in mind if you live in a state where you have income taxes withheld. Okay, and I'm going to come off camera for a second so I can zoom in on this. Let me open up a couple of these different forms as an example. And let's start with our Social Security statement because it's the first one I've opened. If you receive Social Security and you get this SSA 1099, then the box for withholdings is right here in box 6. And obviously I've just used my little Microsoft editor to write in $600 there of withholdings. So that $600 is going to just simply go on line 25B of $600. That's where that's reported. The thing to note about tax forms is sometimes one tax form like this, or like a 1099-R, sometimes you use that form to fill out other forms in your taxes. So one form, one tax statement you get can be used to fill out multiple areas of the tax return. It's a very important concept to understand. Withholdings are a little simpler because you just put them all in one place. But withholdings of $600 here, let's open up another one. Let's look at the most common one I think people see, the W2. Let's say you get a W2 and you show your federal withholdings of $1,000 right here. So that federal withholdings, you're simply just going to put that $1,000, you're going to put it right on line 25A. Now, if you and your spouse, as I'm typing this in, are both married and you both get W2s and you both have withholdings, then you're going to put the combined amount of withholdings from your pay stub and their pay, from your W2 and their W2 in total on line 25A. So you're just going to add them up if you have more than one W2. Very simple. If you have two Social Security statements, both having tax withholdings, you would add up the total withholdings and put that there. For this example, let's just look at one or two other forms here. This person, let's just assume you get this 1099-R, which I know a lot of people are using this form to fill out the 8915-E this year due to those CARES Act distributions for the coronavirus and things like that. But they always ask me, Mike, where do you put the withholdings? Well, the withholdings are going to go on page 2 of the 1040. So here we go. So we have withholdings of $300 in this example right here, just on this little 1099-R. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my 1040. I'm going to add $300 to this line right here because line 25B is for withholdings from 1099's. So therefore, now I have total withholdings of $900 in this bucket, the $600 from Social Security, and the $300 from the 1099-R. So my total withholdings so far are $1,900 in this example. During 2020, millions of people across the U.S. received unemployment compensation. If you get federal unemployment compensation, you'll receive a tax form called a 1099-G. And for some people, for many people, they actually did have withholdings on that tax statement. Let's look at one right now. Right here on the 1099-G, box 4, you can see there was $3,150 withheld. I need to report that because I want to make sure that that offsets my tax burden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go back to my tax form and I'm going to add that to, where's my little tax form? There you are. I'm going to add that to this amount. So I think it was $3,150, right guys? I think it was. So we're going to add $3,150. We had the $600 from Social Security plus the $300 from our 1099-R. So now our total withholdings in box 25B right here is $4,050. Now my total withholdings from this, as you can see, I'm just going to add all this up right here on line 25D, and my total withholdings is $5,050. That's what I've paid in, and that's what's going to offset whatever my tax liability is going to be up here. And it's going to determine whether or not I have to owe the IRS still or if I get a refund is based on how much I've paid in versus my tax liability that's going to be up here on my tax return. Just real quick, I thought I would circle back to line 25C because I was like, wait, what does go there? I had to remind myself. So line 25C, and you can look in the instructions, it says for line 25C, include on line 25C any federal income tax withheld on your forms W2G, which is for gambling. The amount withheld should be shown in box 4. Okay, blah, blah, blah. If you had additional Medicare tax withheld, so that would show up there. And also, if you have a business, if you have an S corporation, a partnership, and you have withholdings being withheld that come through on that K1 statement, then you're going to put that information in that box as well. But this is what I always do, guys. This is how you learn taxes. You look at the lines, and you look at the instructions, and you have to figure out what you do in between. That's the best way to approach this. But in a nutshell, that's what we've done here, and you can see that is how withholdings are simply reported. Easy peasy, you just add everything up and report it here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's really all there is to it for reporting withholdings. Regardless of what statement you get, that is where they go on the tax forms at this point in time. What I always recommend people do, and I do this myself, and this is what the professionals do, the accountants, CPAs, just take a moment, once you've input everything into your tax software, regardless of what you're using, TurboTax, whatever, grab your tax forms, grab your W2, grab your 1099's, Social Security, whatever statements you have that show withholdings on them, and separately on your phone, on a calculator, whatever, add it all up, add up all the federal withholdings, and separately add up all the state withholdings, and then go and look at your actual tax forms. Because the tax form is what goes to the IRS, the actual form. That's what they get. They don't see the inputs. Each software program has different inputs, but the form is what they actually get. Make sure the total withholdings you added up for Fed and state equal the amount that is being shown on your return, and you're gonna have no issues. It's gonna be easy peasy. It's gonna be clean. It's gonna be correct, and it's a way to check your work. All right, I love you guys. Thanks so much for sticking with me on this one. I hope you learned something from this. Like the video if you liked it. Share this with family and friends. Subscribe for future weekly videos around finances, investing, and taxes to become fiscally fit. And I'll see you down in the comments. Live life uncaged, and have a great week, everybody. Peace.